Welcome to Castle
Hello.
Converses.
Oh, thanks for having me on. Really excited.
Yeah, no, it's honestly so cool to see you again and to chat with you. Like it's the morning over here, which is quite different from the fact that it's like late or it's almost basically nighttime over there now, isn't it, in Adelaide?
Yep, early evening, just hit 5:10 p.m.
Oh yeah, sweet. Yeah, I've got my coffee, so it's like, a bit of a switch around, but
Yeah.
even so. But no, I'm like really keen to chat with you today about a lot of stuff that, you've done in your life because you are a very, very musical person. Probably one of the most musical and even versatile, I would say, that I know. Obviously being in a
Interesting.
band with you as well for quite a few years too, with Paper Sunset slash Oceans. But no, like one of the first things I actually wanted to ask you was like, how did you sort of start off wanting to be a musician? Like, what was your sort of your first kind of inspiration that you sort of saw that you were kind of like, yeah, like this is sick. I'd love to do this sort of thing.
Yeah, it's so strange. I keep trying to think about what really led me to become a musician.
Mm.
And I don't really even know why, but I think I was looking for more stuff to do when I was 10. And somehow that led to mum suggesting I play the guitar. I
Mm.
don't really know why I wanted to, never really had a reason to.
Mm.
I didn't really listen to music much at the time.
Mm.
But then, yeah, I started playing guitar, getting lessons, and so that kind of the playing music came first, and then my love for music came after that. Really
Oh
strange.
wow,
Still
that's
don't know
really
why.
cool.
Yep.
Yeah, wow. No, that's really cool, man. Like, yeah, like I mean, sometimes it's a very strange way to do that because yeah, sometimes I guess you get like you might hear the thing on the radio, you might hear a band playing, like, oh yeah, cool, I want to be like them. But like even starting to
Yeah.
play, just starting to play the guitar without even really knowing too much about like bands you play the songs and that sort of thing is quite fascinating actually. So what kind of things, I mean, it might be hard to remember, like what kind of things were you learning to play? Like, did you play like all the classic, like first beginner tunes? Like
Well, no, you see, actually, I was quite unique in my position. So, you see, the first song I ever learned was Smoke on the Water.
Hey.
I know, like, not many people start on that song, but,
No,
I was,
no.
bit on the fringes, bit of a different person.
Mate, I've heard
No,
that song
like,
once.
so yeah, it was just like, yeah, it literally was just all that basic stuff. Whatever my guitar teacher wanted to teach me, he was in year 10 and listened to all that other stuff. What
Mm.
else did he teach me at the time? I'm trying to think now. Smoke in the Water. It took me Black Knight, also by Deep Purple.
Oh, right,
Um,
nice. I had
oh,
like Rock You Like a Hurricane by the Scorpions. That was one of my first ones that I learned when I did like
oh
guitar lessons for
yeah.
about 5 weeks.
I was surprised that that wasn't one of my first. Another one was Living After Midnight by Judas Priest.
Oh,
So
nice. Okay.
yeah, that sort of stuff.
Cool. That sounds
Yeah.
awesome, man. And like, so when you sort of started to do that stuff and kind of learn a bit more about the guitar and playing the songs and stuff, especially at 10 years old, man, like that's I mean, I couldn't even tell you what I was doing at 10 years old. I think I was probably like running around trying to be a footballer. But like besides that,
Same.
yeah, yeah. Like
Yeah.
getting into the sports as some of our parents sort of like, yeah, you can do sport. I'm like, yeah, yeah, let's do it. But like from doing that, what kind of bands did that sort of lead you into when you did start kind of doing guitar and all that sort of thing? Because I know a little bit of your music taste now, and so I'm trying to find
Yeah.
that little shift where it sort of
Yeah,
kicked
I
in.
know it's funny because like for quite a few years, I just like kind of didn't really engage with music that much. I did
Mm,
like do guitar lessons every week, and I play at home, and I liked it, but it felt just more like a kind of lesser hobby that I just didn't really do much of.
mm,
Anyway, at the time, I remember going to a couple different teachers, and most of what I was doing was like classic rock and metal. It
mm,
was pretty diverse. Um, well, I know it wasn't diverse because I didn't
mm,
do much, but
uh-huh,
I've dabbled in different genres. Like
mm.
for example, one day I'd be doing Metallica, and the next day it was Eric Clapton.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
that's diverse.
I decided that my taste was metal. My favorite band was Metallica.
Mm.
Um, and then also the teacher I had at the time was teaching me stuff like Pantera and Sepultura, stuff
Wow.
that I just don't listen to at all anymore.
Yeah,
But I
yeah,
thought, yeah, I'm a heavy metal person.
yeah.
But then it wasn't until, and I remember this so vividly.
That's
I
cool.
remember being in the car on the way to Adelaide. This is 2011, so I've been playing guitar for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And um, Dad was playing the new Foo Fighters album at the time, Wasting Light, and the song
Oh,
Arlandria came on.
hey.
And I thought, whoa, this is the coolest thing ever. Because at the time, I had never really branched out to listen to my own music. It was mainly just what my guitar teacher taught me and what was on Guitar Hero at the time. So I
Yeah.
never really like listened to like more like alternative rock stuff. But I got obsessed with that Foo Fighters album, and then I just got obsessed with Foo Fighters, and
Mm.
then that made me realize, oh wow, no, this is the kind of music I like hard rock kind of that more like melodic kind of stuff. And I still love metal and appreciate it, but
Mm.
um, yeah, my heart definitely lies within that more kind of alternative indie rock punky thing.
Yeah,
What was the
yeah.
question again?
Oh, it was just like what was the question again? No, it was just like your first inspiration, your bridge from learning the metal music into like learning like your Foo Fighters and all that sort of thing. But no,
Yeah,
dude, yeah,
I know.
I know like
Yeah,
Wasting Light is a really good album. I know I remember watching the documentary
yeah,
on that because that was one of the first ones
yeah,
where they recorded it to tape, I think it was. Um
yeah, yeah,
yeah, that was like wow, that was super
yeah,
super impressive watching all that. But yeah, no, I do. That sounds sick, man. Like, I mean, especially because I mean, you grew up in the country in Whyalla as well, which is kind of impressive as
yep.
well. So like going from like,
Well,
country kid,
thanks. It's hard work.
yeah, going from country kid into Adelaide. Yeah, man, that'd been sick. How was like, did you because obviously going into Adelaide and that sort of stuff, you started to become a bit more accustomed to joining bands and that sort of thing. Were you ever in a band when you were living in Whyalla?
I was in two bands when I lived in
Oh,
Mayala.
right.
Yes.
Nice. Cool. All right. List them.
Oh. So the first band, edgiest name ever, we were called The Faction.
Oh,
And
okay.
then that broke up because the lead singer apparently got grounded for like 6 months. And so
Oh, rough.
then I started a three-piece. Oh yeah, that band was like post grunge. We were big,
Mhm.
like influenced by like 3 Days Grace, that sort of thing, because that was
Oh,
what the singer
dude.
liked.
I just saw 3 Days
Yeah.
Grace to download, and it was like one of the best bands I've ever
What?
seen. Yeah, dude. It was sick.
Oh, that's
Like,
so cool.
and they went off. Like, they actually, like, because after sometimes you don't, because I've known of them for a while as well, but like, when you've never really seen them before, it's hard to know if they're like one of those bands that like everyone gets around, and oh man, just everyone got around it. It was so awesome to like, oh yeah, but mad tangent, but no, 3 Days Grace
Yeah,
just
that's so good.
absolutely slap.
Yeah, that's so cool. I want to see them. I'll have to suss when they're playing next.
Hell yeah.
Uh, uh, yeah, anyway, yes, that band broke up, and so I started a three-piece punk band with the same bass player and a different drummer.
Cool.
And but we didn't really gig much because soon after the bass player moved to Adelaide, and
Mm.
then he like moved back to Whyalla, but then I moved to Adelaide,
Ah,
and so we just like it just didn't
on
really
the
work
split.
out. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, rough. That's cool, man. So yeah, when you did, and so yeah, like that's awesome, man. Like starting off in the bands and the Wailer and coming in, and then so like when you first sort of came to Adelaide and you sort of were getting, I guess, like sort of used to the city and everything sort of surrounding it, because I know that we first met when you were playing with Jettison, and now I don't know
Yeah.
how Jettison started, but I would love to know how Jettison started.
Oh, interesting. So I guess you could say it started when I joined I joined a band pretty soon after moving here. We
Mhm.
were called Mervyn, and
Mervyn,
we were like, yes, we were like a
sick.
funk grunge band, really strange. We sort of sounded a bit like Nirvana and the Melvins, but then also had
Yeah,
a
cool.
little bit of like, I don't know, like a Led Zeppelin vibe or something. Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So anyway, that band just like went nowhere, did pretty much nothing. And then I went and started. Well, no, so that was when I had the idea of recording my own EP. I had a Dave Grohl fantasy where I wanted to make
Oh,
an EP
nice.
that
Yeah,
I recorded by myself.
cool.
And it was convenient because I was already doing that for uni, where I was like, for my uni songs,
Mm,
I was like writing and um, yeah, doing like the drums and the guitar and everything,
sick.
and submitted them for uni. For uh, for legal reasons, I totally changed the songs completely after I went to record them for the band stuff. I definitely didn't use anything that I had
Right.
used for uni. Yep,
Right. Okay.
totally didn't do that. Um, and then I've recorded a couple of extra songs that I hadn't done for uni, and I thought, oh yeah, I'll put this on like out as like just some solo, really like garagey indie thing. It was definitely like not that good of an EP.
Mm,
I came up with the name Jettison,
mm,
and it was just like a little not too serious name at the time. I kind of knew that I wanted to start a band with those songs, but the idea I had was it didn't have to be like I didn't really want to make like associate those actual recordings with the band I'd start, and I thought we don't have to be called Jettison,
mm.
like I'd make it more of a collaborative thing with the people who become in the band.
Yeah, more of a
Anyway,
working
so hang on,
title.
so that was a bit of a tangent.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah.
circling back to the band that wasn't going well, we had a rehearsal, like a practice booked in one night, and then that like an hour before, the singer was like, "I'm not coming tonight. Sorry, had a family situation. I promise I'll be at the next one."
Mm.
And but then the drummer and I, we decided we'd still jam anyway. So I showed him my songs, and we thought that maybe we could do this like Jettison thing
Mm.
together. Um, and then we started playing with a different guitarist, and then uh, after a couple practices, we were still looking for a bass player. So I put a
Right.
post out on the like Facebook, the Adelaide Musicians page on Facebook,
Hey, nice.
and
Yep.
Ben, of all people, offered to play
Oh,
bass.
oh,
And he goes, yeah,
nice.
yeah, I'm not a very good bass player, but I'm happy to just help out, even if you don't end up settling on me. So
Awesome.
he was playing bass with us, and
Right.
like he wasn't very good, but whatever. Um, but then it kind of turned out that the drummer who was in my previous band and it was with us
Mm,
wasn't really working out super well with him. He was a great drummer, but it just
mm.
didn't really work with him.
Yeah.
So we like kicked him out, and then Ben took over on drums. And then very soon
Yes.
after that, we found Callum to play bass with us, and that
Right.
created the four-piece that we were then known as
Wow.
Jettison.
That's awesome, isn't it? That's so cool, man. Like
Yeah,
it's
so
just
weird
so
though.
nice to see how sort of like bands come together and how people come together throughout just little walks of life of even just from like an idea sprouting of something that you want to do. Like I don't know. It's always so fun to hear the stories of how it all sort of comes together and how it all works and stuff. And it's so cool because yeah, I mean
Yeah,
I remember doing like the first artwork for Jettison years ago, which is the first time that's literally how I met you, was I think through Tosh actually.
yeah, no, that's right. That's the
Yeah.
EP that wasn't supposed to be a big deal, but then we literally released it as a
Yeah.
band after we'd already formed.
Yeah. Oh, it's crazy how that shit goes down. I actually didn't mind that.
Yeah.
I thought it was a really cool EP, man. I thought it was nice. Like I
Oh,
thought I rated the
thanks.
songs and stuff, and it was fun to work on like the artwork as well. I hadn't personally done a lot of art at that point, so even I was a little bit like,
Yeah.
oh shit, like that band wants me to do an artwork like this has to be
Oh,
good. Like, it's
that was no, your artwork was the best part of the whole EP.
Oh no, it's a good one. But no, it's so no, that sounds sick. Like how it all sort of worked together and how it all bridged worked and everything like that. And because I mean, you were playing guitar in that band, and you were singing as well. But I mean,
Yeah.
even so, with I guess even over the years with your instrumentation, like you've got quite a versatility in instruments. Like I've seen you go on the drums, I've seen you play the bass, I've seen you play the piano. Like you kind of like you dabble in all sorts of instruments and that sort of thing, which is awesome. Shows your versatility. Like,
Oh,
is
thanks.
there like a have you is that one of those things where it was sort of a part of that Dave Grohl fantasy to kind of learn every kind of instrument in order to do like your own little EP thing, or was it just something that you kind of just wanted to you just kind of wanted to learn just as much about these instruments as you possibly could?
Oh, I think it was a combination of both. I think it started out as just like general curiosity, wanting to be good at multiple instruments. But then, like, once I got really big on Foo Fighters, that definitely started to have a Dave Grohl fantasy.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it was both. Like, no, I think the just general curiosity was what made me want to play the instruments. But I think Dave Grohl is the one who inspired me to make an EP with all the instruments. Otherwise, I probably would
Right.
have never had that idea in the first
Yeah,
place.
yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I'm sure he's inspired many people to to learn many instruments and such over the years as well. But no, that sounds awesome, man. And so, like, I mean, after we did that, like the Jettison stuff, you guys did like you were doing EPs and all that sort of stuff, and you did some heaps of shows and stuff like that. Like I mean, I went to quite a few shows. It was always fun watching you up on stage playing with Jettison. Like you guys were real fun to watch and all that sort of stuff. And then
Oh,
I guess
thanks.
I guess from there you sort of kind of you started to bleed your way into Oceans ever so slightly, ever so slightly from the Jettison farm, which is a
Very
fun, is
slowly.
very slowly, but it's always a fun story. I remember you coming on tour with us that one tour that one tour we did as Oceans, which was like just fucking awesome. That
Yeah,
was a
it's good
really
fun.
cool time. We got lots of fun. And then obviously you joined us as Paper Sunsets not too long after that event, finally, which was great. And yeah, I mean there was always so much fun having you a part of the band because I mean even for us like the sound and everything just
Mm.
changed so much from what it
Yeah.
was and just became so much bigger, so much fuller. And even as a unit, like the five of us just meshed really well together. And it was
Mm.
I think Tosh said it the best because he was on this podcast back in Adel back maybe like a couple of months ago. But
Mm.
it was almost like we had four frontmen in the band after a
Yeah.
while. And so we had like almost
Yeah.
four frontmen energy. But I guess in that spot there was also sort of like little clashes and that sort of thing too. But even so,
Mm.
like bridging out from that, I love the fact that, especially in the present day at the moment, like you've really sort of branched out into different genres, and I think, especially with the bands that you've listed off and the genres that you have been involved in, like you really do have quite a wide range of like things that you can play and sort of styles that you can play. And so I guess like joining Copious would have been a really sort of like another kind of different vibe and another different genre for you to kind of dabble into. Hey.
Yeah, totally. I guess there are some songs that are quite closely aligned with my taste in music, but then there are other songs that maybe like are closer to what I used to be in, but lately it's not really being the sort of style I'd listen to. But
Mm,
so yeah, it sort of did feel a bit like somewhat like unfamiliar territory because it hadn't really been something I was doing around that time. Yeah.
mm. Yeah, no, that would have been lots of fun. Even like, and so like the creative process, because obviously Sam, our good friend Sam Upton, is the big brain behind Copious Dribble.
Yeah.
And I think you guys are working on some stuff now, which is awesome to hear because you've got some like, great songs already coming out, which is awesome. But like
Oh, don't
even
hold your
like
breath.
no worries. I never usually do. It's like it's always in the back of the brain. It's like eventually. But no,
Keep
how
up.
does it? Yeah, I'd love to know like how it kind of feels to be a part of that process because obviously you and Sam worked together. Obviously in Sunsets we had our own processes and stuff, but you guys working together in a different style and a different band, working together in that sort of sense. Like how is that sort of different from how you sort of did things with Sunsets? And is it like a little bit more? Is it a bit more efficient as well?
Yeah, probably more efficient because it's largely, dictated by Sam. So,
Mm,
it's very much his project. And like we all, the rest of us as members, we get to have a creative input, but
mm,
it's not quite to the same extent that it was in Paper Sunsets, where,
mm.
yeah, like we're four front men all trying to front the band.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, you're right. Like the process is a lot more streamlined than it was in Paper Sunsets. Even Jettison.
Yeah, in the same sort of sense. Wow, no, that's awesome,
Yeah.
man. That's really cool. And now I want to go into Grit because
Oh,
I don't know much about Grit, but all I know is that the shows that you have put on for Grit have been just awesome. So please take us through Grit and the whole sort of idea of you wanting to create it and all the processes and the stresses, I guess, that go into planning something of that kind of magnitude.
oh, where do I begin? Yeah, I don't know. It was, yeah, I guess, everyone's got their ways of contributing to the music industry.
Mm,
And I sort of thought I'm not very good at social media. I'm not very good at, I don't know, like bringing like lots of people to shows. But
mm,
I am good at organizing shows. And I thought, well, why don't I take that to the extreme? And that can be kind of the way that I like exceed, so to speak, as
mm,
a musician in the music industry.
mm,
Um, and so yeah, I thought, well, I'll start doing shows at a slightly larger scale. So that's where we started with Grit in
mm,
2019 at the West Oak.
Yes.
pretty standard kind of local event. Just it had two stages and it was bigger. That was pretty like it was pretty straightforward to put together. It wasn't much harder than like other gigs where we'd have a four band lineup. It's just, it's like an eight band lineup. So you spend a bit longer booking
Mm.
artists and whatnot. Um, but then, yeah, going into um, last year's grid and this year's grid is
Mm.
completely different ball game. And
Right.
that's when you start working with managers and booking agents, and like it really becomes more like it's much more business oriented, and um, like I don't really know how to
Yeah.
articulate it or what I can say, but it's it's tough. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
a tough gig, no pun intended.
But you would even from like going through all that and dealing with that side of it, you would learn so much and have so much sort of insights into how like big gigs and big sort of like semi-festival things do kind of operate and do kind of work. And so I guess through like doing that and experiencing it yourself and putting yourself out there, you gain all this knowledge, you gain all this experience. So like I'm guessing the next couple of ones that you do put on are going to be massive. And it's great to know that you are still going to be putting them on, because I know there's quite a few people who love going to Grit and who have really enjoyed it in the past. So like, keeping it as a recurring event is really great, man.
Yeah, I mean, I had the intention to be a recurring event. It's definitely happening this year. It's going to be announced in about a month, but
Oh,
whether or not it happens the year after, I can't be sure about that.
oh no, of course not. I mean, as I say, there's always different things happening in walks of life, but even so, man, it's so cool to be able to like, put on a massive show, especially in Adelaide, like put on a massive show for people. And it's something that, I mean, obviously I'm over in London now, but it's something that I have noticed recently in Adelaide is that there is a bit of a shift in the way that people put on gigs, in the fact that, people are looking to put on much bigger gigs and much bigger lineups to try and attract more people. I know that there's
Is
quite a
this in
few
Adelaide or London?
in London. I know in Adelaide, my bad, in Adelaide. Like as in the metal scene, I know that there's a lot of big gigs and stuff being planned, and like big
Yeah.
lineups and that sort of stuff at the Crank and Enigma and stuff, and obviously like doing Grit as well and keeping that big band lineup going. Like it's a really cool way, I think, to attract people into to go and see more gigs in Adelaide, which is great because there's plenty of venues and stuff to go to, and it's always a thriving music scene over there, which is really, really cool. So it's great that you're contributing to that sort of that flow that continuously goes with it all.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I like to be part of that. It's like, yeah, really exciting to be able to put on such a big event that other people look at and have a good time in. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I'd love to go on to. Sadly, it's not a band anymore. But I'd love to talk to you a little bit about City Feet, because that was looked like a really
Yeah.
fun band and thing to be a part of while it lasted. And again, it's one of those. It's one of those things that I really don't know much about of how it started or whatever. It's almost like I kind of woke up one day and suddenly I'm like, oh, Matt and Sam are in three different bands now. When did this?
Yeah.
How did this
That's how it
happen?
felt like to us as well.
Yeah, but yeah, no,
Yeah.
I'd love to know a little bit about City Feet, because you guys are really cool with like some really great music coming out, like when it was going on.
Yeah. It's funny because like there was a time where this is when Jettison put out its last EP where we weren't sure if we were going to stay together or not.
Mm.
We're still not sure.
Yeah,
Um, but I still wanted to write my own songs and do that kind of music, but also my like taste in music was shifting more to kind of a poppy territory. And it was sort of starting to maybe deviate a bit from what Jettison was. And so I
mm.
thought maybe I should start a new band. So yeah, I was starting a band with Jo. So she wanted to like initially I told her about how I wanted to start a new band, and she said she'd be keen to do that with me
Cool.
on guitar, even though she was just learning guitar. Um, so we started jamming the songs I was writing, and then later on she decided she prefer to be in a band singing, and suggested the idea that she'd be the singer instead of me. So,
Oh,
there were all these songs that I wrote with the intention of me being the singer,
yeah,
but then instead Joe was the singer, which probably did like probably was like made had better potential for success than me singing.
yeah, yeah.
And then I always sort of like vaguely wanted Sam in the band, but then he didn't really want to be in the band. But I think like
Sounds like that.
once Joe had become the singer and the band started to sound a bit more like something Sam would be keen on. And
Yeah.
then later on we found Aaron and Jess. So yeah, that formation of the band is probably a bit more simple than Jettison's one, isn't it?
Yeah. But even so, it's like again, you're dabbling into like another genre of music in like that again, sort of more
Yeah.
indie pop sort of upbeat vibe, which is awesome. Like it's another genre to add to your sort of thing of like you're dabbling in all these different styles and stuff. And yeah, dude, it's so cool because I mean, some people just, they sit in their preferred genre for a lot of, their musical life, which is obviously a fine thing to do. You can be really good at something and keep doing it, but it's just so cool that you just decide to really explore your horizons on what you want to write and what you want to play, and it keeps working out in these bands that you're actually able to work together with people with and release music with, which is it's great, man. It adds to your like portfolio as being a musician, and that's like I know I personally think that's I really think it's great.
Oh, thank you.
But no, even so, man. And you, I mean, when it comes to shows played, I think you've probably played, probably the majority of shows out of the five Sunsets members. I know that you've played the most shows out of all of us through all your different bands and all that sort of stuff. Do you have like a
Mm.
do you have like a show or a gig that you kind of reminisce about or that you remember quite like well as being one of your favorite ones, or one that you sort of like you kind of go back to and you're like, yeah, this was like really
Oh,
fun.
that's a good question.
Mm. It's
Oh, I'm
good
gonna
to
have to
reflect,
think
isn't it?
about that for a second.
That's fine.
Maybe, probably the High Above EP launch.
Yeah,
Like, it was
right.
just at a time where everything was just so positive. You know, we and Jettison got along really well. And, like, there was lesser, dare I say it, toxicity in the music scene.
Right, yes.
So, you know, we were all just friends having a good time.
Yeah.
And, like, lots of people went as well. So just everything just sort of felt like it had paid off. It was, yeah, that was probably one of my favorites.
Yeah,
Amongst
yeah.
that too might be like some of the Paper Sunset shows, like the Gambler Man show and all the launch
Oh,
shows that we
yeah.
did the
Oh,
year
so
after that,
sick.
like Your Eyes and the I think the Volvo launch, that was good
Mm.
fun.
Yeah, no, that was really good. I remember that. I remember the Gambler Man one was just absolute sweat city. Like that was just like,
Yeah, it
oh
was, yeah.
man. In the like playing in the Cranker in December, like at the start of summer, was
Yeah.
just something else, man. Like it's just
That
it
was
was
my
so sick.
last show where I was not in the band.
Yeah, I know. It was almost like your induction show, I guess, in a way. But
Yeah.
it was, I think we announced that night that you were in the band. I can't remember. I don't know. There's a really cool photo of
Yeah.
you that still is like my favorite photo of you, where
Oh,
you're just like,
thanks.
it's just you and you're just looking up, just so happy, looking out to everybody.
Yeah.
I feel like that
Yeah.
many different moments, but oh
Oh,
no,
yeah. No, I remember
nice.
that photo you're talking about.
Yeah. No, it was so much fun. I do miss gigging in Adelaide. I do feel quite like I haven't gigged much. I haven't gigged at all since I've been over here, which has been quite sad. But I really do miss sort of the Cranker Friday, Cranker Wednesday sort of vibes and all that sort of stuff. And I've seen heaps of different bands who are like obviously playing shows together, and that sort of thing. And it's like, yeah, it's such a cool vibe and such a cool scene in Adelaide. And every time the Cranker posts anything about $3 schooners on a Wednesday, I'm just like, oh man, I'm just like, damn, I want to be there and get the $3 schooners and all that sort of thing because it's such a
Yeah.
cool like I don't know, it's such a cool vibe, such a cool like spot to be out there. But even so, man,
Yeah.
like it's so cool to like reflect and just go through all the stuff that you've done because as I say, it's especially when it comes to music. I mean, from my point of view, it's like, well, I know a little bit about this and that and all the rest of it, but I don't know a lot about a lot of things. But for you, I'm like, man, I look at someone like you and I'm like, that's a musician, man. That's a guy who is,
Oh, thanks.
is always going outside of his comfort zone to learn new things and to play new things and always experimenting with the styles that he wants to do and almost like ticking off like a list of things that he kind of wants to do and kind of wants to achieve. And it's really nice to just sort of be able to see that. And the fact that you're even like recording, man. I remember like watching you record whenever it was for Sunsets, or I don't think I was in there for a Copious one, but even for like Sunsets doing the guitars and stuff, like just such a you just go about it in such a professional way, which I really do enjoy. Oh, actually, that's another question I want to ask.
Oh,
How are
very
the
interesting. Oh, thanks.
How were like the recording processes for you in like the Copious and in City Feet, like going through all that sort of stuff? Because I mean, I guess you were doing guitar for the majority of it. Did you have like influence in a lot of the other sort of spots when it came to putting the songs together and in that sort of way, like in a studio sort of sense?
Specifically with the stuff that I record myself.
Oh, as in like with like the City Feed and like Copious and all that sort of stuff. Like, do you have like quite a big presence when it comes to producing with the songs and going into that sort of stuff? Or do you mainly just sort of go to your like you do your guitar beat and you're like, yep, cool, I'm kind of good now.
No, I have a pretty big influence in like in both in Copious and City Fit, had a pretty big influence in how everything comes together.
Cool.
Like even when I'm not recording myself, I will often still be, you know, making a lot of suggestions and decisions, probably oftentimes more than anyone else about
Mm.
kind of how different parts get played and how they go.
Mm.
Um, but especially in Copious, when I'm recording it myself, like, you know, Sam gave me a lot of creative liberty to, you know, come up with like layering tracks with guitars and stuff to work out how, you know, like how I can make the sound like beefy and big.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I do tend to have like a pretty big like foot in the door when it comes to the production side of
Cool.
things. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. This has been such a fun chat, dude. Like it's been so cool just to rally these things off with you and just chat about your whole sort of musical spot and your influences and the bands you've been in and shows you played and stuff. Like I don't know, it's been really really fun. I've really really enjoyed this chat, man.
Oh, it's
Is there
nice talking to you as well. Thank
yeah,
you.
man? Is there much more music stuff you're doing at the current time, or are you kind of more so focusing on like on grit at the moment?
I am burned out from music.
Yeah.
I think I learned recently that apparently, um, you probably know about this, how
Mm.
you can step out of your comfort zone to push yourself to do things. But I didn't realize that there's a thing called the danger zone. Do you know about that?
I think I've heard it be said a few times by people. Yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah,
I think I may have done that myself in a way coming over here in the way that I've sort of taken myself out of
yeah,
like everything to try and start it in a new spot or try and do something else and it just has not gone the way I expected. And now it's like,
yeah. Oh, interesting. I'd like to ask you
yeah,
about those things if that's
yeah,
okay.
sure. But it's something similar in
But
that nature.
yeah, because like you know, the idea is that when you go out of your comfort zone, you're doing things you're not very familiar with. There's some
Mm,
pain along the way, but ultimately you grow and you become better at whatever it is that you're doing.
1000%,
Whereas
yeah.
you know, if you just stay in your comfort zone, you're just kind of like doodling away at whatever you're doing. So, for example, that'd be like if I just stayed in Jettison forever and did nothing with it, and we
Yeah.
played the same songs and never really recorded or challenged ourselves. But then
Yeah.
going out of your comfort zone would be like, you know, starting, you're like, oh, let's dabble into events organizing, let's dabble into recording, let's like start a new band where it's like a metal band, I'm the front person, stuff like,
Yeah.
you know, that's good examples of going out of your comfort zone where you're going to have
Mm,
some hiccups and stuff along the way. But then the danger zone
mm.
is when you go too far beyond what you're capable of. And then you don't really have like, you know, when you become in too deep, you don't really have the ability to like retreat. So
Yeah.
I've kind of done that by like, you know, doing like the events and doing like
Mm.
way too much gigging and recording
Right,
to the
right.
point that like I was never really capable of like keeping up with that. And now I'm paying the price like years later.
Yeah,
And
right.
so
Okay.
I think, oh, yeah, in terms of plans,
Mm.
like I think I need a break from music. It's going to be
Yeah.
grit
Hmm.
this year. Probably might still do some stuff in Copious, but
Yeah.
like that's it for a while, I reckon. I don't know. Might come back to it, I might not,
Yeah.
but I need a break.
No, I think that's a good idea, man. Or sometimes, you know, you've got to sort of step back for a bit and do sort of take a break from things. I can definitely relate in that sense in different creative spots too. But no, I think that's a very good idea, man. Because you know, after a while, we all need a break from doing something that we've been doing for a lot of our lives. So there's no hesitation there at all. But yeah. But even so, man, this has been such a great conversation to have with you through all the
Thanks for
ups and
having me.
downs and all the rest of it, man. No, I really appreciate you joining me today. And yeah, thank you so much for being on, bro.
Thanks for having me, Kate.